You have just witnessed one of the most iconic moments from Gunsmoke, the immortal monument of the American Western genre. First aired in 1955, Gunsmoke quickly became a television juggernaut that lasted for 20 seasons, with over 600 episodes, engraving its mark deep into the history of Hollywood. Even after more than 70 years, the show's appeal remains undiminished, not only because of the breathless gunfights and legendary characters, but also because behind the scenes still lie shocking secrets that few dare to recall. Few people know that a devastating explosion once tore through the Gunsmoke set, nearly taking James Arness's life right before everyone's eyes. There was even an episode locked away in the vault for 2 decades because CBS decided it was so disturbing that airing it would leave viewers heavily haunted. And that is only the beginning of 20 shocking, dramatic, and unbelievable truths about Gunsmoke. Backstage secrets that will make you look at this legendary series through an entirely different lens. 1. The devastating set explosion. James Arness narrowly escaped death. That day, the crew believed they were only filming a simple fire scene. A wooden shack, some smoke, a few flames for dramatic effect, and it would be over. Yet the moment the switch was flipped, the shack erupted like a real bomb. The deafening blast shook the ground. Flames shot skyward as if to consume the entire set. Splintered wood flew in every direction. Lights and props crashed down like the chaos of a battlefield. James Arness, the legendary face of Gunsmoke, was only a few dozen steps away. The violent shockwave blew off the cowboy hat that had stayed with him for 2 decades, and in that instant, everyone thought he was gone. The crew panicked and scattered, some screaming as their clothes caught fire, others collapsing in dizziness. Thick smoke engulfed the set, erasing the line between staged drama and grim reality. And Arness, he stood a breath away from death itself. One misstep, one pause too long, and everything would have ended. After that catastrophic blast, production ground to a halt. Studio safety regulations had to be rewritten from scratch. While the crew was still shaken by the explosion, a series of eerie events soon made the Dodge City set even more chilling. 2. The haunting rumours surrounding the set, guns firing on their own, invisible figures late at night on the Dodge City set, when most of the crew had already gone home. The sound team stayed behind to check the tapes. And then, in the silence, gunshots suddenly rang out, even though no shooting scenes had been filmed that day. At first, everyone thought it was a technical glitch, but when the phenomenon repeated itself over and over, unease began to spread. On some nights, the cameras even captured a shadowy figure gliding through the Long Branch saloon. Yet when people rushed in to investigate, the room was completely empty. Rumours quickly spread. The set had been built on land once used as a Civil War training camp, and perhaps the old spirits had never left. Many crew members refused to work overnight, and some even requested transfers to other departments because they couldn't bear the eerie chill of walking alone among the silent wooden buildings. Even the actors admitted feeling unsettled, though Ken Curtis, Festus, would often joke, "If there really is a ghost, it's probably bored stiff from watching us shoot the same scene 50 times." The studio never publicly confirmed these stories, but for those who were there, the fear remained. Yet it wasn't only phantom shadows that sent chills through the crew. Sometimes, the true haunting came from flesh and blood human beings. 3. The drunkard on screen was a real criminal in life. Louis, the staggering drunk of Dodge City, was originally written as a minor character, meant only to add a few laughs. Yet Louis appeared so real that it unsettled viewers. Have you ever wondered how a supposedly comic role could radiate such chilling authenticity? The secret was James Nusser, the actor behind Louis. Before joining Gunsmoke, Nusser endured years of darkness, homeless, stealing to survive, in and out of jail multiple times. Those stains of his past became raw, living material, allowing him to embody Louis effortlessly. The haggard face, the weary eyes, the hoarse voice worn down by liquor. All of it was real, untouched by makeup or special effects. Recognizing this rare authenticity, the writers leaned into it, giving Louis tragic layers that made audiences both laugh and ache. Noosa once admitted with emotion, "Gunsmoke saved my life." Through this role, a man once cast aside by society became a familiar face, remembered fondly as an inseparable part of Dodge City. Gunsmoke could redeem one man, but for Arness, it turned every day of filming into a journey through physical hell. 4. James Arness filmed in unbearable pain, surviving thanks to a desperate trick. On screen, James Arness appeared as Marshal Dillon, a soul resolute, unshaken in the face of any enemy. But few knew that behind the stiff walk and cold expression was excruciating agony caused by severe arthritis. For the last 10 years of Gunsmoke, he could barely drag himself across the set. To keep the role alive, Arness devised a risky method. He shot all his scenes in a single day, then spent the next 6 days recovering. Each time the camera rolled, he straightened his back, clenched his pain, and became Dodge City's unbreakable symbol. But once the lights went dark, he collapsed in exhaustion. The audience never knew. They only saw a Dillon unyielding and indomitable. And while Dillon still forced himself to stand tall, another secret arose that made CBS tremble. 5. An episode so disturbing CBS banned it for 20 years. In 1966, the Gunsmoke crew completed an episode titled The Collector. Gone were the familiar shootouts and cowboy bravado. This script delved straight into human darkness, a ruthless tax collector driving the poor to such despair that death became their only choice. No escape, no true justice, only unrelenting bleakness from start to finish. When the cut was screened, CBS executives were stunned. To them, this was no longer family entertainment, but a raw social nightmare exposed on screen. The order was immediate: do not air it. And the episode was locked away for nearly 2 decades. It wasn't until the 1980s, when television loosened its restrictions, that The Collector quietly aired in a late-night slot. Instantly, it became a forbidden relic, traded among fans, proof that Gunsmoke once dared to go further than any other Western ever attempted. Yet while viewers still shivered at that hidden truth, another accident struck the set, sending chills down everyone's spine. 6. A prop gunshot that nearly turned into real tragedy. In Gunsmoke, guns were supposed to be mere props, yet one fateful day, they almost made the set a place of true disaster. Ken Curtis, who played Festus, was rehearsing a quick-draw scene when suddenly a blank-loaded revolver discharged at point-blank range. The explosive bang echoed, and a burst of flame shot out of the barrel, striking straight into the face of a nearby technician. He collapsed instantly, his skin scorched, ears ringing, his hearing lost temporarily. The entire set froze. Laughter and dialogue evaporated, replaced only by ragged breaths and panic filling the air. Fortunately, no one was killed, but that incident became a wake-up call. From that day forward, the crew enforced strict double checks on every weapon. Not a single gun entered the set without being inspected twice. A shot that nearly cost a man's life shocked the entire production into caution. Yet while Gunsmoke carried on under constant peril, one cast member dared to walk away right at the peak of glory. 7. Burt Reynolds quit Gunsmoke at his peak. Many thought he was committing career suicide. In 1962, Burt Reynolds joined Gunsmoke as Quint Asper, a half-Comanche blacksmith with a tough, fiery nature. Almost instantly, Reynolds became a fresh attraction, winning the audience's attention and making his character beloved. Yet, at the very height of this success, Reynolds abruptly announced he was leaving the show. The reason? He feared being typecast, forever trapped in the image of a Western blacksmith. The decision shocked everyone. Many claimed Reynolds was destroying his career, while Hollywood branded him reckless, since walking away from Gunsmoke meant turning his back on one of television's greatest launching pads. But Reynolds proved them all wrong. Within just a few years, he exploded on the big screen with Deliverance, and soon after became a global superstar through Smokey and the Bandit. Reynolds later admitted, "Gunsmoke taught me discipline, but I had to leave it in order to live." Yet while Reynolds stepped out into the spotlight, a real-life town was pushed into darkness, all because of Gunsmoke. 8. The real Dodge City once threatened to sue for being portrayed as a den of crime. When Gunsmoke exploded in popularity, the residents of Dodge City, Kansas, a real town, were anything but proud. They were outraged at seeing their hometown depicted as a place of shootings, drunkenness, and chaos. Local newspapers even published editorials condemning the show for tarnishing the city's reputation and trapping Dodge City in an image of Western lawlessness. At its peak, city officials even considered suing CBS to defend their honor. But once curious visitors began flocking to the home of Gunsmoke, everything shifted overnight. New hotels were built, souvenir shops opened, restaurants printed menus named after characters from the show. They even reconstructed the Long Branch Saloon as a tourist attraction. From once resenting Gunsmoke, Dodge City spun around 180 degrees, transforming the show into a goldmine for its economy. A town that once despised Gunsmoke ultimately survived because of it. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, one actress took out insurance on something no one expected. 9. Miss Kitty and the insurance policy on her voice. What do you remember most about Miss Kitty? Her striking beauty, her piercing eyes, or her enigmatic smile as the saloon's hostess? For many, it was her husky, magnetic voice that truly defined the character. And Hollywood decided that voice was precious enough to insure. Producers feared that if Amanda Blake ever lost her voice, Gunsmoke would lose half of its soul. That's when Lloyd's of London, the famed company known for insuring the unusual, stepped in. They issued a policy covering Amanda's voice, something almost unheard of at the time, usually reserved only for singers or broadcasters. The contract even carried a strict clause. She was absolutely forbidden to smoke in real life, even though Miss Kitty was constantly seen on screen in a haze of saloon smoke. And of course, that was far from the only secret surrounding Miss Kitty. 10. Miss Kitty was ruthlessly dismissed just because of old dresses. Through many seasons, Miss Kitty was the feminine soul of Gunsmoke, providing the perfect balance between the smoky gunfights and the softer but powerful presence of a woman. Yet few knew that Amanda Blake, the actress who embodied that icon, would be forced out of the show in a way that left Hollywood stunned. After nearly 2 decades on set, Amanda began to feel the unfairness. A wealthy, influential, and alluring saloon owner, and yet year after year she was made to wear the same worn-out dresses, repeated to the point of monotony. Amanda believed this not only damaged Miss Kitty's image, but also diminished the character's value in the eyes of the audience. She firmly demanded that producers invest in new costumes, but instead of listening, they coldly refused. Claiming shrinking budgets as the show declined, they branded Amanda's demand as troublesome. And in one harsh, merciless decision, they struck her from the cast list. After nearly 20 years of dedication, Amanda Blake was dismissed without farewell, without recognition. Years later, the producers themselves admitted bitterly, "We made the most foolish mistake of our careers. We lost the female soul of Gunsmoke." That blow was the first crack, a warning sign that far worse was yet to come. Chester pretended to limp for 9 years, until he forgot how to walk normally. Dennis Weaver knew that if Chester was to survive among a cast full of strong personalities, the character needed a unique mark. So he invented the limp, clumsy yet endearing, which made audiences believe 100% that Chester was truly crippled. But behind the illusion, Weaver chained himself to a grueling burden, day after day, year after year. He dragged himself through scenes with that artificial limp. The strain on his spine and muscles left him in constant pain, and by the end of each day, he could no longer walk normally. Worse still, after 9 long years, when Weaver left Gunsmoke, he realised he had actually forgotten how to walk like a normal man. He had to relearn step by step, awkward and unsteady like a child, to regain what should have been the most natural act of all. And while Weaver struggled with his own legs, his relationship with a fellow cast member was just as troubled. 12. Doc and Chester, real-life hostility behind the scenes. On screen, audiences loved the banter between Doc and Chester, a cranky, sharp-tongued doctor and a bumbling, awkward sidekick. But off-camera, the atmosphere between Milburn Stone, Doc, and Dennis Weaver, Chester, was tense to the breaking point. Stone was the model of discipline, following the script to the letter. Weaver was the opposite, relishing improvisation, often slipping in extra lines or gestures to liven up his role. This infuriated Stone. Every time Weaver deviated from the script, Stone's expression darkened, and the tension on set became palpable. At times, the silence was so heavy that writers began reducing scenes with both of them together just to avoid clashes. Though it never escalated into an outright fight, everyone could see. The conflict between Doc and Chester was very real. And while the cast simmered with discord, CBS was forced to make a shocking choice, sacrificing another hit show just to keep Gunsmoke alive. 13. Gilligan's Island, sacrificed to save Gunsmoke. By the late 1960s, Gunsmoke was sliding in the ratings. CBS faced a harsh choice: cancel or preserve a series that had lasted more than a decade. In that moment, they made a decision that shocked American television. Instead of cancelling, CBS shifted Gunsmoke to a new time slot in hopes of reviving it. But that meant another show had to die, and the victim was Gilligan's Island, a beloved comedy adventure with its own loyal following. With a single move, Gilligan's Island was erased, while Gunsmoke gained another decade of life. Fans of Gilligan's Island were furious at the loss, while Gunsmoke loyalists breathed a sigh of relief. The gamble worked instantly. Ratings climbed again, ensuring Gunsmoke's march into legend. But while CBS had just rescued Gunsmoke, the cast and crew were already considering an ending, only to discover that such an ending would never truly arrive. 14. A shocking finale, cancelled without a last episode. After 20 continuous years on the air, both James Arness and the crew believed Gunsmoke still had several more seasons left to tell Dodge City's story. CBS thought otherwise. One day, the ruthless order came. Cancellation, immediate and without warning. Thus, the final episode aired as nothing special. Just another routine installment. No farewell, no closure. Only an abrupt emptiness that left millions of fans stunned. For many loyal viewers, it felt like a betrayal, and if the ending left audiences hollow, there had been another storm earlier. All because of a kiss that never even appeared on screen. 15. The only kiss between Arness and Blake was in a cigarette commercial. Marshal Matt Dillon and Miss Kitty, the couple audiences longed for over 20 years, never once shared a kiss on screen. That absence only deepened fans' obsession. And then, ironically, the one and only kiss between James Arness and Amanda Blake came not from Gunsmoke, but from a commercial for L&M cigarettes. In the short clip, Amanda approaches, hands Arness a pack of cigarettes, and then plants a kiss on his cheek. Arness turns to the camera, smiles, and says, "That's the way I like to get my smoke." That fleeting moment became the couple's only kiss, leaving fans both delighted and bitter, because it happened outside the script, tied to a product that television today bans outright. A kiss not belonging to the show became a legend. And while that moment still stirred debate, on set there was another item guarded even more closely than the leading actors themselves. 16. Arness's cowboy hat, a relic with its own bodyguard. If Marshal Dillon was the embodiment of Western justice, then the cowboy hat on his head was his unmistakable symbol. That hat was treated by the crew as a treasure. It had its own insurance policy, was locked in a steel case when not in use, and always had a staff member assigned to guard it. To prevent disaster, the crew had several replicas made, but only the real one was allowed in the most important scenes. James Arness once joked, "If I've got my own bodyguard, then this hat has one too." But it wasn't just props that received such devotion. Sometimes, even a side character thought to be temporary was unexpectedly rescued by nothing more than the audience's love. 17. Festus survived thanks to a fan uprising of handwritten letters. At first, Festus Hagen was meant to appear in only a few short episodes as a passing guest role, but audiences refused to let him go. Thousands of handwritten letters poured into CBS, all carrying the same demand: keep Festus. The pressure was so overwhelming that the producers were forced to change their plans, elevating Festus to a permanent character in Gunsmoke. Ken Curtis, the man behind Festus, did not disappoint. He crafted a thick, peculiar voice for the character, inspired by a mule trader he once encountered in Colorado. That single detail alone helped turn Festus into one of the most memorable and distinctive figures in the entire series. A role nearly written off instead became an icon, all thanks to the persistence of fans. And sometimes, that love went far beyond anyone's expectations. 18. The superfan who sent a 30-kilo Gunsmoke Bible. Have you ever loved a show so much that you spent an entire year creating a tribute to it? In Iowa, one woman did exactly that. She painstakingly collected photos, clipped articles, and even built a wooden model of Dodge City. The result was a scrapbook of over 400 pages, a gift she called the Gunsmoke Bible. When she sent it to James Arness, the massive scrapbook arrived in a crate weighing over 30 kilograms, so heavy the crew struggled to move it. Arness was deeply moved, so much so that he personally invited her to the set, honouring her as Gunsmoke's #1 fan. But while real life overflowed with love for the series, inside the script itself, romance was nearly absent, surfacing only once in 20 long years. 19. In 20 years, Arness had only one on-screen kiss. For 2 decades, audiences longed for the moment Marshal Dillon would finally kiss Miss Kitty. But that moment never came. Instead, Dillon kissed only once, and it wasn't with Kitty. In the episode Matt's Love Story, actress Michael Learned, later famous as Olivia Walton, appeared and shared with Dillon a deeply emotional kiss. It was the one and only time in the entire 20 years that the script allowed Dillon to express love through a kiss with a woman. Fans were shocked and angry. How could Dillon kiss a character who appeared only briefly, yet never once share that moment with Kitty, the woman by his side for 2 decades? That forbidden choice only deepened the mystery of Gunsmoke, leaving behind one of its greatest unanswered riddles. 20. Doc Adams, 16 years without a real name. For the first 16 seasons, Dodge City's doctor was simply called Doc. Audiences grew so accustomed to it that everyone assumed it was his actual name. In truth, the writers had never given him a full identity. Milburn Stone, the actor who portrayed him, eventually found it absurd. After more than a decade and a half, he decided to give his character a name himself, Galen Adams. From then on, Doc Adams finally had a complete identity on screen. A detail that seemed minor, yet it revealed the carelessness of the crew. A central character, present through hundreds of episodes, remained nameless for 16 long years. For more than 70 years, Gunsmoke has not only been a Western series, but a true television legend, where every character and every story left an indelible mark. Behind those fiery frames were countless secrets, dramas, and unbelievable truths that made the show even more extraordinary. Though it ended long ago, Gunsmoke still endures as a shining symbol of Hollywood's golden age. If you found this video captivating, don't forget to hit like, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the most dramatic behind-the-scenes stories of the screen's greatest legends.